Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing live show number 409. And as if you've been watching us, as I hope you have, these past couple of months, we've been traveling all around the world. Well, we've been traveling in the world, Netherlands primarily, Belgium, so forth. We are back home in our mess that we have still, which we will be cleaning up here shortly. And now that we're back from our show, or from our travels, I should say. Thank you all for watching as we've gone through this process. Thank you for watching when we had short shows, long shows, introspective shows. We will be getting back into some changing formats here very quickly in regards to other guest hosts coming in and so forth, and hitting some of the other topics from alternate perspectives. But I wanted to kind of do this show, since this is the first one back home, Southwest Florida, to kind of look back at the entire traveling experience that we've had for about 2.5 months. And looking from a marketing perspective, it has been, as you've been watching the shows, an interesting transition of time. It's been something that's been fun in the sense of what it's been like, the experiences to be had, and so forth. Sorry, I'm checking my technology to make sure it is running correctly on our broadcasting. Looks like we're streaming good for everything, but it seems to be looping. Oh, no, there's just a long delay factor. Wow. We're about 15 seconds behind or 30 seconds behind on our live simulcast. On TV, you get to go over and watch us directly, so that's no problem. But for the live show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, it seems to be about 30-second delay. So as I smile now, you'll see 30 seconds later. Anyway, all right. For those that may not have been keeping up with all of our shows, which I hope there's not many of you, we have been gallivanting through Europe, primarily the Netherlands and Belgium, over the past 2.5 months, kind of recounting our travel experiences and the perspective of marketing associated with places that we've stayed, things that we've seen, things that we thought could be done differently, the experiences that you have versus the experiences that you were told when our marketing communication went out and so forth. And out of all of that, I think I've come to other than the retrospections and so forth, a bit of a clearer understanding of some things. And with today's topic, other than being retrospective over the past 2.5 months, I want to bring out a very strong point that goes towards operations. At the end of the day, the experience of one-to-one communication, the experience of our guests in our properties is our greatest marketing tool. It's not that what we do for communication in our marketing message, it's not for the offers and the specials, it's not for the content that we share and so forth. Those are all good and powerful things. But the most important aspect is what the team at ground at the property do in engagement with the guests. I think you may have remembered 2 shows back, I was talking about the sincerity factor associated with marketing. That sincerity is a key element to the success to marketing. I can't say that enough now, in the sense that a sincere personal interaction with a truly desiring to be helpful team member is probably the greatest and strongest marketing tool that we have as hoteliers, as restaurateurs. From and through that, the entire experience at that moment forward changes. So my topic today is introspectively broad. What's better than marketing? Very pragmatically, from a marketing perspective, we are very much about understanding the interactions that we have both pre, during, and post with our guests. How we can communicate with them, what we communicate with them, how well it resonates with them, how much it inspires and pushes them for conversions. These are all methodologies and functions of what we do. But at the end of the day, it's the sincerity of the engagement of the operation team that truly can amplify and or convert or transition a guest from being mildly happy to ecstatic, despondent to accepting, happy to amazed. It is that sincerity of engagement with our guests that is critical. It overlays conditions of the product. It overlays the trials and tribulations of travel. It overlays the uncertainties and unknowns that you travel with. We're going to talk about a little bit of all of those. And it really brings back the fact that you're there in a place that is out to service you. You're paying to be there. The building exists because you're there. The person's job exists because you're there. But their sincere interest in your happiness makes it all the worthwhile. Through this entire course of traveling these past 2.5 months and experiencing different culture, international travel, and different ways of traveling, things of going to places that you have never been before, and all that it takes to understand to get there. I can say the one true piece of all of that is I remember more the benchmarks of sincere guest interaction that I had with team and staff members of where we were, and restaurateurs and museum docents and what have you, than most anything else. Um, of course, the experiences are there as well, but also the negative experiences, the things that weren't what they were seeming to be, the things that were not living up to what was told or shared or conveyed or communicated. Um, all of those things got diluted, if not erased, other than just a passive memory, by positive team engagement. Conversely, unsympathetic, unempathetic, lacking in sincerity, engagement, tolerance, neutrality, dismissiveness only amplified those negative aspects, only reminded me of why, yeah, next trip back, not something I got to do again, not someplace I got to stay again, not something I need to really. And the marketing aspect of this conversation is the stories that I will weave, the tales that I will tell, the shows that I will speak about, the presentations that I will give, will reference by category my experience, negative, positive. Those negative stories, the lack of engagement from the team only amplifies the negative impact of why it was negative the entire time at that property or that dining experience or whatever it was, that only made it worse because the person wasn't interested in solving and or amplifying a positive, or just being sincere and trying to correct for or whatever. Now, I had not terrible experiences. I had challenging experiences. I had unknown experiences. I had negative surprises, and then completely in the converse of all that, completely happy surprises and unexpected joys and so forth. That is the joy of travel that we have. And as marketers, we have to remember that is who we're talking to when we talk about what we do, when we create the content that we create, when we understand how we want to intersect our guests and share with them the information that we want them to know to better understand us and stay with us or buy from us or eat with us. These aspects of what we do for marketing are critically important. And as mentioned before in a couple of shows during our travels, and again more emphatically now, how our team fulfills what's shared communication wise and marketing wise, how our team does what it does in mirror to what our marketing us has projected the property is capable of doing is critically important. By the same token, the known deficiencies of our properties, the known gap points, the working to get better points, whatever way you want to phrase it, can be smoothed over dramatically by a sincere service team member. That engagement of trying to help. To give you some practical examples, uh, sometimes it was a challenge to get to a hotel because of the scheduling that wasn't known, the trains that didn't go the where we thought they were, the bus stations that didn't have elevators or escalators, and you had luggage and all these other things. Being able to share that communication in a meaningful way so that people that are traveling, that granularity is important in their preparation and or understanding of what it's going to take to get to you. And then getting to a front desk of a hotel that is automated, insincere, functional. It's not that they didn't do their job. It's not that they didn't check you in, but the fake smiles, the indifference to conversation, the dismissiveness of not wanting to broach anything other than just getting you away from being in front of them. Those aspects only amplified the challenges to have gotten to them. My experience is going to Brussels. As wonderful as it was being in Brussels once we finally settled in, the challenges of getting to the hotel, the interaction of the team members at the hotel, the product itself. They didn't really emphasize the renovations that were going through and so forth. They didn't really weren't honest with it. They made it aware, but they didn't really tell you what the impacts of your stay would be like for the renovations. And the reviews did add to some of the depth of what you'd be experiencing there. Not all of them were accurate. Sometimes I think the reviews were a little bit more harsher than they needed to be. The noise wasn't really as much of an issue as was portrayed by some of the reviews. Of course, timing is everything. Um, but the things that weren't addressed, the absolutely horrendous to almost zero internet access of a brand hotel, the conditions of the lack of amenities, complete lack of amenities in some things, yet the rate was not reflective of that, nor was the solutions or alternatives something that was even attempted. This all downplayed the fact that had somebody just been friendlier about the conversation, kinder about the communication, as a marketer, sharing communication of information, so there was a real relevance. Because really, at the end of the day, the hotel's location was exactly what we wanted. So just knowing what to expect would not have changed our minds. It just meant that we were less negatively surprised. Sometimes we're so fearful of sharing things that aren't necessarily in the best light. The fact that our elevator, two of them are down out of three, and there is going to be a challenge of getting people up and down the elevators, escalators efficiently. The fact that you're not really in walking distance of that train station or bus stop. That Uber really doesn't drive to your doorstep. These things. Now, obviously, that's not exactly how in the US we have those same problems. We don't have train problems. We may have bus problems. Most people just hop in an Uber to get somewhere. So it's not really a concern in that sense. And there's very few challenges about Ubers pulling to the front door of most of our hotels. But the idea that we communicate content as marketers is critically important. The fact that it mirrors the truth of what people will experience when they're there is our responsibility as well. And the key element to the topic of our conversation today, that the team members that are there, the engagement that they have with the guests is the best marketing possible. Because my stories about my travels, because we all take two trips. We've said this many times in the show over the years. The trip I actually took and the trip that I actually share. If things are good enough, then that's the story I tell. If things were bad enough, that's the story I tell. If they're bad enough in cascade, then I dramatize how terrible it was. I make sure I point out all the things. And what I mean by this is, say, for instance, you're going to your hotel, and the Uber driver was less than they land, and the airport's in disarray, construction-wise. Which, by the way, Houston is. It's a total mess. Don't fly through there if you can. It's a mess, especially internationally. The airport's a disarray. Elevators, escalators don't work. You got luggage, you're lugging around. You can't find out where to go to get to an Uber. They don't actually have one particular spot. It depends on which terminal you're in. You can't get between terminals because the train doesn't work. Helpful information. No, I'm not bitter. Through all that process, that frustration of travel, then I get to your hotel and I'm dealing with nobody that helps for anything. There's no carts available because nobody actually added into the repertoire of the team working that even though guests may not return them, please hunt for them because they're in a high demand because we have high check-ins and people do come in and they have lots of luggage and they need the carts. And just letting people run off with them and then leave them in hallways on a multi-floor hotel is not helpful. Even reminding guests to bring them back, or at the very least, finding out where they went so they can go get them. Those things are important. So then that gets added to it. The indifference at the front desk. You go to the room, the air conditioner is maybe not to the caliber it needs to be, or the room is not clean, or it smells. Things aren't in a condition that you expected. You were expecting and asking for certain things. They said they were going to have ready. They don't have ready. All that adds together and then gets melted away with a sincere, interested, engaged team person. Where somebody will be like, oh my gosh, let me get that fixed right away. Or I will get that taken care of. Don't worry about it, whatever. Or the room's not, then let's do something about it. That sincerity melts all of the airport, all of the travel, all of the frustrations of the property away. It doesn't make them disappear, but it nullifies their potential cascading effect. In reverse, unsympathetic, unempathetic, lack of sincerity at best, Indifference exacerbates all of those problems. And then hopefully the experience of being there, hopefully why I'm there and doing what I'm doing negates a lot of that negative, because I don't want to harp on what it took to get there. I just want to talk about how great it was once I finally got there. But if that doesn't hold true, then the whole story of the trip turns into a negative story, amplified to a horror story, because drama is drama. We don't tell a mediocre story to our friends. Oh yeah, it was this. Yeah, it was this. It was like, we amplify the challenges. Oh, and the Uber driver was obnoxious. The car smelled. Get to the hotel. There's no carts. These people could care less. The room smelled. The air was off. The bed was broken. Whatever. It just turns into a story to tell. Again, we have trips. We take two trips: the one we actually had and the one that we share. By the same token, if you did have that engaged team member, if you did nullify the negative impacts that we're building, then even though that happened, like, oh yeah, but once they were so helpful, blah, blah, and then we got to see this, this, and this. Yeah, the trip to getting there was a real pain. The Uber driver, the car was it. But you know what? Once we got settled in, we're okay. Tell me you don't tell these stories. Tell me that this is not the way we share our information. And this is where the marketing of your team member is more powerful than any marketing we can do as marketers, because they did that. Because now I'm telling my friends and my social groups, which we now have a large digital social group in our worlds of social media, okay, the stories. And now when they might consider duplicating aspects of my trip, or taking my suggestion that you should go there to the destination, that you're not excluded. Oh, that's the hotel that Loren went to. Oh yeah. They said it was a little bit chummy, but they said once they got there, it was great. The location was great. That's what they remember. Or they might come back to you and say, hey, look, we're actually thinking about going there. And you had mentioned, do you think it's still worth it to go? Yeah, the hotel was fine. I'm sure they fixed whatever was the issue. Or make sure when you call, you ask them this, that, and the other thing. The idea is that word of mouth advertising is still the most powerful thing. We've put labels on it over the years: influencer marketing and social circles and digital avatar and all these other things. We talk about the power of the communication of firsthand experience being shared. But the reality is, the word of mouth marketing is the strongest, most productive, highest converting communication that is available. It is also potentially the most destructive communication to your business should you go the other way. So the power of doing marketing in a way that is amplifying your services is really in the hands of your team members. Just recently, stayed at a hotel in transition from going from one place to the next. We were leaving Dallas when we were going through Mobile. And the hotel we stayed at, branded hotel, vanilla box one, mid-tier. Nothing unique, out of the ordinary in that sense. But what made it nice, the room was worn, not dirty or anything, just worn. Smelt that way, felt that way. It was slightly dark. Air conditioning had its issues, not issues, but the rooms. They're not on the front edge of the technology build. They're not the newest of or the shiniest of and what have you. The food was what you would expect it to be in places like that for breakfast. We bought it. We got it particularly because we didn't want to have to deal with worrying about breakfast first thing in the morning. It was available and there ready for us. But what made it good was that no matter who we came across, housekeeper, engineer, front desk, manager, food attendant, no matter, was a warm, genuine, hi, how are you? They didn't do anything. We didn't have a problem they had to solve. There wasn't an issue that needed the attention of somebody. They just were nice. And in the hotel's location was useful and functional. It wasn't a place for a destination market. It wasn't like you must go there if you want to go to Mobile, Alabama. I'm sure there's other hotels that are near other more interesting things. This one was not exactly the easiest to get to, but it was functionally one of the more central ones that we needed to based on our travels. But it was the people. I would tell people, and do tell people, when they travel through Mobile, if they're looking transitionally just to stay there because that's their halfway point or their travel plans, that's a link in their chain. I would tell them this hotel, not because it's the cleanest, not because it's the newest, not because it's the shiniest or the best location. It's because I anticipate that the people are there because the manager leads them to say hi to people, be nice to people. Again, they didn't go out of the way to do something for me. I didn't ask for anything to be done, but they were pleasant. Good example. We're loading up our car with a bunch of suitcases. You can imagine the amount of suitcases we had for a 2.5 month journey. Loading up the rent-a-car or rent-a-truck or rent-a-van, whatever. It's huge. One of those Traverse things or whatever. And I had the card. And one of the housekeepers was coming up from the front area where I was loading up from. And she says, "I'll bring that in for you when you're done." I'm like, "Oh, well, it's right there." She's like, "Nope, I got to go back in anyway. I'm just going to my car, drop something off." Made the day, made the morning start well. That was in addition to the breakfast tenant, just a warm smile. "Hi, good morning." Didn't mean that I needed something, didn't mean that they got something, just the fact that they were welcoming. The power of that diluted any of the aspects of, gee, the room was dark, kind of humid at the beginning. The air conditioning didn't quite keep up with it. Um, kind of tired, whatever. Material. They kept it clean. It was efficient. But most of all, the people were friendly. And that's my review. That's what I'll say about it. This is a friendly place. And for our purposes, it was a perfect place. In reverse, other places that should have had a higher level of engagement, higher level of service, higher expectations from us, poorly met. Didn't do what they should have done, didn't take advantage of the opportunities that they had. And that inversely affects their marketing potential. Yes, I'll go back to that city, but I may not stay with them. Because now that I'm more familiar with the area, should I go back again? I know what other alternatives there are and what it means to change locations. Like, well, I know we stayed there, but if we stay over that area, I remember what was over in that area, and that's okay too. We can move over. And you've lost them. You've lost that lifetime value of a guest because of the interaction or lack of interaction that didn't happen when we were there. And that's a critical component to the process. The idea that your people are your best marketers. It's an easy word to say, it's an easy phrase to make, but it's truly genuinely valid. The idea of everything we talk about from marketing strategy, the ability to um, anticipate now engagements of content, how to filter the audiences we speak to, tailor the messaging that goes to those targeted audiences, all critically important, and all fail if the experience doesn't match the communication of the marketing. It's a critical component. I've told you times before when I used to run hotels, be part of hotels and so forth. We used to have what we used to call NETMA meetings. Got that from my first general manager, Bobby Bryant. Nobody ever tells me anything was the name of the meeting, NETMA. 8 a.m. Had to be there in the exec offices, and a representative of every department had to be there. Didn't have to be a manager, didn't have to be a supervisor, just had to be a rep. And that rep was tasked with going back to their team for the day and tell them what was shared in the NETMA meeting. The NETMA meeting was a daily, I've heard them called alley rallies, stand-ups, whatever, the terminology. The purpose is the same. Make sure your team is aware of what is going on. Now, it doesn't have to be special events, crises, or priorities. It just sometimes is a valve of communication of how busy you are or aren't. Obviously housekeeping has their sheet for the day already. They already know what they're expecting. They've already planned based on occupancies, how many team members are going to be and so forth and so on. But that doesn't mean that everybody knows that one of the 3 washers is down. Engineering knows that they had a maintenance schedule going on and they're going to be working on the chillers and what have you. But nobody, they might have mentioned the fact that they're also going to be painting on the second floor left wing. And that once everybody's taken out of there, that they're going to paint or whatever. Just this awareness function, because that means the front desk people, as they're checking people in and people want to check in early, you don't want to stumble them into your engineering team on the second floor left wing because it's going to smell like paint. It's going to get in the way of the engineering people that are still trying to finish it off before you do have to use the rooms. And you want to make sure you put people in the rooms that they have their first initial experience. That's good. It's not that I don't appreciate going down a hallway and passing an engineer that's painting a wall. I love maintenance. Problem is, I'm not there to watch maintenance. I'm there because of my travel expectations. And if you could have put me in a room that meant that I didn't have to smell paint, probably would have liked that. I'm not going on vacation to smell paint. By the same token, that kind of conversation, that NETMA meeting in the morning, allows people to be aware. And it's a great chance to remind people that what they do with guests and how they engage with the 10-20 rule and so forth are critically important to the success of the hotel. They are the best success because in spite of everybody that we've yet to get to the hotel, the next day's arrivals and the next day after that it's arrivals and what have you, you have in-house that day, in-house. The smile that you give to somebody when they sit down for breakfast, the hello just because you walk by them in the hallway, the hold the elevator because you see them coming. Those are all critical, small, but effective and impactful things that make the difference between believing what got me sold on staying at your hotel or believing that it's not what I expected when I got to the hotel. And sadly, the places that you would expect that level of engagement, that the training went commensurate with it, was almost inverse to the people and places that I gave a lot more leeway to thinking that they didn't get trained that way. Case in point, the Mobile Hotel, where hey, having people do the work is probably the critically most important thing. That engineer that shows up and does work and is consistent and maintains what needs to be maintained is critically important. The fact that you're trying to make them smile and wave at guests is kind of like a, if that can throw that in, that's great. But if he isn't, I'll still take the good maintenance person. That's the priorities of some of these places. But when it comes to the larger, upper scale, full flag kind of things or destination places, the expectation is no matter who has a badge on, that they will act accordingly with guests. And sadly to say, that's where most of it falls down because it is a combination of expectation and realization. I expect it because I know I'm paying to be at a place like that that has that caliber as in my mind from what marketing told me it was going to be. And then there's the reality of the fact that I walk by three housekeepers and not a smile, not a wave, not a look up, no eye contact. Or an engineering person that really is just intolerant by looking like, really, I'm trying to get work here done. That happens. A front desk person that once they're done tapping their phone and putting it down and whatever else it is that they were engaged with at the moment, then acknowledging that they can now help you rather than I'll be with you in just a second or something like that. Food service, where it's really a automation, okay, here, bring, boom. And they don't remember where the plates were, even though they're the ones that took the order. Drives me nuts, by the way. It's something that's always existed in food and beverage that there's the methodology of keeping track of how a table layout is so that the food gets put in front of the person that ordered it rather than auctioned off at the table. It drives me nuts. But these are the little things that add to the quality and the caliber of the expectations, what we as marketers have sold to the property. What we said was going to happen should be amplified by the actual execution of the team members. So team members are our greatest marketing tool. They're the ones that can create the fulfillment to what was expected of it. They can also exceed the expectations of the guests, like they did for me in Mobile, where I didn't expect them to be as pleasant as they were. I didn't expect them to be as engaged as they were. And from that, I'm now talking about it on a live show to 209 countries and 39 other on our shared Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. And then I'll be talking about it again on our podcast, which is on, ironically, 39 platforms. Anyways, the idea is word of mouth marketing, the engagement of the story is a critical, if not most important aspect of our marketing. And that is completely in the hands of our team members. Because even if the property fails in the expectation, and the view fails in its expectation, and the location fails in its expectation, and the amenities fail in its expectation, and other things fail in their delivery, the room type, the whatever it is that's a nuance to the guest that we may not know, universally, quality service will trump all of that universally. And people will say, well, no matter how nice and friendly they are, the room was still terrible or the location was still terrible. You're right. But you walk away knowing that they did everything that the team member could do. They can't build you a new room. They can't build a new wing to the hotel. They can't fix whatever it is that was the ultimate crux of problems for you from a material perspective. But by golly, you can't take away from them the fact that they did everything that they had the power to do that. That the front desk person didn't try somehow, that the housekeeper or engineer or the food attendant or whoever it is didn't try somehow to help solve the issues that you may have had. They can't move the hotel. So if it was a location issue, if you didn't read enough to know where it was or the marketing lied to you, that's two different things. But it's not the fault of the team member that's trying to make amends to try to do what they can to placate the fact that you're disappointed by something. So again, the strongest, biggest, best thing about marketing is the fulfillment from your operations team members. The augmentation of us as marketers is the creation of accuracy of truth and helpful information. We had that discussion 4 shows ago about content development, granularity, usefulness. The post-stay engagement, which is the affirmation of the experience that the guest had and the continuance of the dialogue and the communication with the guest to make them a lifetime guest, in the hopes that they will consider you the next time they need your location or are going to be in your market again, that you keep that engagement with them. And that comes from the best understanding of why they traveled with you. Is it a one-time travel? Is it a repetitive travel? And maybe even the guest doesn't know how often they may come through that. As some of you may know over the years listening to me, while living in Dallas and coming back to Florida at least once or twice a year, Mobile was our halfway point. So we got very good about going to Mobile as a destination in between where we're going from and to. So for that, I can't say I'm a Mobile aficionado, but I do know where best places to stay in Mobile are for transitional travel. With that being said, the idea of me when I travel, I don't know if that's my last time or just the next time. So as a marketer, as I communicate with somebody like me, the idea is that you don't exacerbate our relationship by high frequency engagements post stay. You don't exacerbate it by thinking you're just going to keep shoving 10 pounds of communication into a 5-pound interest. It doesn't work. Allow me the idea of knowing that should I need to come through the market again, or should I need to come to your market again, or should I need to want to stay with you again, I will engage that. Our responsibility as marketers is to leave those doors open to show how you can re-engage with us. Now, whether I get forgotten or not is another thing, which means that we as marketers always have to make sure that we show up for when people are looking back into our market. Taking my example of Mobile, I may have forgotten this hotel. And 2 years from now, I have to make another trip where Mobile is a destination, either transitory or final. And when I go to search Mobile, I see you again. I see your product again. And once that trigger hits, having a good CRM that would say, wait a minute, this person is a previous guest. Let's change our dialogue and acknowledge who they are, saying, wow, it's great to see you again. Nothing really spectacular, no guilting of it all, just a affirmational. We know you because you stayed with us. Welcome back. How can we be of service again? Or here's a value to you because you've been with us before. We'd love to acknowledge the fact that you're a return guest. That's quality marketing. That's definition of purpose. That's quality to what we're doing. It adds to the value of us as communicators in marketing to do that. So that's the point I really wanted to make today. We'll have our introductions, of events and things that have happened with us over the course of the past 2.5 months of travel, insights and so forth. Next week is going to be a big show because we're going to get very granular about functional AI tools in marketing for hospitality. And we're going to get past the buzz bullshit crap. We're going to get into what really works, what doesn't work, how it works, what's the way to make it work. It's fun that it's a shiny toy about AI. It's fun that people want to talk about using AI and cutting down costs in AI until you really start looking at how you're going to use it and you hit these walls of, okay. I've made it do funny pictures. I've made it say funny stories, but how do I actually make it do work that I need? And more importantly, how do I augment the work I need done with these tools? Next week's live show, we're going to be all into that, about talking functional AI development, using your data to accumulate aspects to solve your issues, questions, and things that you can do with it. So thank you all for joining us over the changes of venues behind me these past couple 2.5 months. There's more ventures to come. There's more travel to come, so forth and so on. But for right now, we're home. I'll spruce up the digs a little bit here, make it look a little prettier than what it does right now. Get it back to a more studio look. And of course, we'll do our podcast today, as we do every Friday. Partial recap of today's show, plus also some tools we were talking about from last week in relationship to our content data collection. So more to talk about that. So until next week, and thank you sincerely for all the shows that you've watched from times past and so forth. We're well into it. We're coming up to our 10th year come August. We're coming into our 10th year. Doing this every week, no matter where we are in the world, we do this live show. You, of course, as I mentioned before, can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. But more importantly, you can find us on TV. We have our TV channel, the Hospitality Channel. It's a TV station. From that, you can watch us on Roku TV, Amazon TV, Google TV, Apple TV, Samsung TV. We're there. Just look for the Hospitality Channel, the live show. This one is always on the free side of it. If you are a hospitality marketing professional, you can join our peer group. We are about to blow that up into a much more active engagement. That's at the hospitalitymarketing.club website. You'll see there's only a little box. Put your email in. Put your email in. I send you a quiz. If you pass the quiz at 90% or better, I send you an invitation. It is a peer group of hospitality marketers. We're not here to teach marketing. We're here to augment your ability to do what you're already doing, which is marketing for hospitality. Great participants, great speakers, great professionals. Right now, we've been heavy discussions of GA4 transition. End of this month, the world falls off for anybody that's using UA. And if you're just taking the default settings from Google, you are messing up your world, or will be in about 21 days. So we'll talk more about that as the show goes on as well. And of course, we'll be hitting that with the podcast as well. Data collection, data dimensions, GA4 usages, dashboard creations through Looker, lots of cool stuff. Hope all these things sound interesting to you. And of course, if you are already doing these things and or engaged with hospitality marketing, join us at hospitalitymarketing.club and have some peer groups that are, we're coming up with some creative, amazing solutions with stuff, insights for everybody. Everyone that's on it loves it. So hope you join us there as well. So until next week, show number 410 next week. My name is Loren Gray. Thank you sincerely for the privilege of your time, and look forward to talking to you next week.